Hello, friends and listeners. Welcome to Com Talk Podcast with me, Briar, and Ray as your host, and our guests from ComLab ASU. I have Casey, Linda, Miguel, and Cassidy here to inform us about how positive communication affects the self. Let's begin. How are you all doing today?
Great.
I'm doing great.
Okay,
Doing good.
great to hear that. So today I wanted to talk about positive communication and how it affects the self. And from what I know from chapter 4 of Mirabel's book, The Art of Positive Communication Theory and Practice, talks about the symbolic interactionism, which can be a complex theory which has two important principles. First is a theory that argues that communication is the primary way in which identity is negotiated, and second, it is identity construction that occurs through interaction with others. These two principles working together imply that interaction with others influences the development of self. Do you all agree that is true? And what could be a good example? I know that for me, growing up in my neighborhood, we had a lot of close friends. Being of Hispanic descent, we have a word called primo, where we say cousin. But for us, we took a slang terminology to it. So my closest friends would be called preems. Like, hey, that's my preems, that's my preems, that's my preems. As a slang type of term to say that's my family member, my best friend, like more than a friend, we're family here. So that's one example I could think of, like how we use like words to interact with each other to kind of create that family bond. I'll be reading for Briar. So also, even language is an important way through which meaning can be negotiated and constructed. And an example given in the book are the names used to refer to people that help co-construct various identities like mom, dad, create the parental identity, and the use of doctor can even imply the roles of professor or medical professional, and even other words like honey or my love, which can create this closeness between partners. In what ways do you use words to identify someone in your life? So I bet many of you guys use, identities to relate to your kids, your parents, your friends in different ways to kind of construct that, relationship between them. So for the symbolic interactionism, emphasis that people's identities are both personally enacted and given to other people. Even our own sense of self is affected by how people interact with us, by how people talk to us and even act towards us well. There are even three major concepts as well that focus on how communication affects the self, which is altercasting, ossification, and intertextuality. As much as I know, I wanted to actually ask the experts, which is all of you here today, about what is these three concepts. First, starting with Casey. So I would like to know a little bit more about altercasting.
Thanks, Ray. So, hi everyone. My name's Casey, and today I want to explain to you what altercasting is and why it's so important to utilize it in the comm lab especially. Altercasting is the concept that is not nearly intimidating as the four-syllable monster makes it be. So, turning into something more digestible is simply, it's persuasion. According to Chapter 4 of Merivale's Art of Positive Communication, the exact term is, quote, the process in which we frame other people's identities into roles of our own talk. So, what does that mean? Well, going deeper into our readings, the chapter, it further gets introduced as a way to connect with an audience and practice becoming what you need to be in that moment. More so, altercasting is understood as a way to casting someone else in a certain role or acting or portraying or representing their identity in a particular way. So, how does that translate into the lab? Well, consider this. A student comes in and compliments one of you as they would the lab, saying, wow, this lab is incredible. It feels so comfortable being here. I love being here. To which one mentor would respond, thank you, we work so hard. In that instance, the response was embodied around all of us in the lab itself, as if we were all doing the talking towards that compliment at once. We're all part of a positive feedback loop. Furthermore, as a mentor, you're going to have endless amount of personalities, speeches, and situations thrown at you. Utilizing the skill of altercasting can help us mentors adapt in a person that the mentee may need us to be in order to be perceived as prepared and professional. This gives us the flexibility that means matching their energy or matching the person that they need us to be. Our 2 o'clock appointment might have been excited, energetic, and prepared, which gives us the chance to be just as excited with them. However, our appointment at 3 may be unprepared, unenthusiastic, who's just not having a good day. They can't handle the same energy that we brought to the appointment before them, so we need to match this new energy. And the same goes for every appointment after and after and after. It's important to know how to bend what we need to be for the mentee's needs to get our message across. After all, the identity that we must embody in this instance is always a Comm Lab ASU mentor. I'll send it back to Ray now.
Awesome. That's great to hear that. So we're vibing off energy, kind of creating that whole type of thing to match somebody or even give them that positive communication as well. Now, thank you for that. I'd like to go to the second concept, which is ossification. And Linda, what can I know more about that? What can the people know, the listeners?
Hey, thank you, Ray and Briar. I appreciate being here. So ossification is the idea that people can influence each other through interaction. A concept that is mentioned in the book that we use for this course, The Art of Positive Communication. A concept that was originally developed by Philip Bloomstein in 2001, where he writes that through interaction, people ossify each other, meaning they influence what each other is becoming. With one utterance and or one compliment at a time, a person can influence what the other person is and can become. I liken it to the power of positive thinking, but in reverse, sort of, where the power of a positive word, or actually several words that are spoken by the giver and then heard by the receiver on a continual basis, can instill positive thinking within the receiver, therefore ossifying the individual to which these positive words are given. And exactly how that applies to the work that we as mentors do here at the CommLab, you ask? Well, CommLab ASU rather, we instill in the mentees that come to CommLab ASU a continual form of ossification, in that mentors are consistently providing mentees with positive interactions. From the onset of the appointment with the mentees, mentors provide genuine compliments, be it complimenting them on something that they are wearing or the background that they have chosen, or perhaps something the mentor notices at the mentee's location, like a painting or a poster or even a pet that they might have in the background. This kind of complimenting breaks that initial apprehension the mentee may have had upon entering the CommLab. It also continues throughout their speech and their session. As mentors, we never cease to provide positive feedback, and yet it does not end there. As the mentor complements the session, as the mentor completes the session review form, they include that positive constructive criticism that they verbalized. One that not only includes what they verbalize, but also the words the mentor has used to ossify the mentee, but also solutions that can be applied by the mentee to help improve their public speaking abilities, which in turn also ossifies them.
Awesome, nice. So basically talking about kind of giving that visual, like, kind of confirmation of like, hey, I like your shirt, I like your hat, and also talking about their speech as well. You know, we kind of like construct that constructive criticism about talking about their speech, but we also give them that positive communication, I can see. So that's awesome to hear. So now for the third concept, we're gonna hand it over to Miguel about intertextuality. So what else can we know about that for this third one?
Thank you, Ray. So from the book definition, intertextuality is the process through which human beings' discords blend together, or which means our words or language we use as humans blend with one another. So for example, like for you, if you, Ray, have a conversation, some words I could pick up from you of understanding, or for simpler terms, if a child, when a baby is born, she or he observes the world around them and they observe their parents, what they do, but as well as they observe what words they use, what kind of language are they using. So that's why children they have an easier time picking up the words much faster. So in which case, when we're older, we pick up more words like, different types of words that many people use, like, for example, awesome. Awesome doesn't originate with me. It didn't come from you. It didn't come from, we don't know where it came from, who's the original owner, but it was just kind of that word that kind of traveled upon through different generations, and we just picked it up for our own language. So how could we use that for compliments? Well, maybe you don't know how to give a compliment, you don't understand it, but by observing others who do know how to give compliments or who do give compliments, you can interpret yourself on like how to do it. For example, like Linda was saying, like observing her saying like, oh, you have a nice dog or nice hat or something like that. You don't have to use the exact same words as what I just described, but attribute that, okay, well, I can think about complimenting what they're wearing, or compliment them outside of the realm of that's not belong to them, because we think compliments are about themselves, which they are, but you could do something more with it. You can expand upon it by observing and getting more feedback from others about compliments. So
Awesome. So basically kind of taking it, but using it in your own ways to kind of compliment people. Like I could say, Linda, you have a great shirt. That's awesome. I like that, Sun Devil. Nice. Awesome. So now we're gonna pass it off to Cassidy as she talks about the knowledge, the theory behind it.
Awesome. So Casey, Linda, and Miguel, I loved your thoughts and examples that you used on each topic, and I loved how you viewed each one like you did. We discussed how to practice and seek out what positive communication is through the identity of self, through the altercasting, ossification, and intertextuality. And all these points are very important to CommLab ASU. I might even say a crucial part. But ultimately, this should be a call to action to you as future mentors or even potential mentors to start watching your own actions and like your own comments to what you make in relation to others. The chapter states that in every moment, a person can choose to make a regression choice or progression choice. To internalize this yourself, it's kind of like the devil and the angel trying to tell you like, oh, do you want growth or do you want to kind of regress back? Because it really affects like your interaction and yourself with it. And then like the experts said, all the experts, this could be done through like complimenting or where you put yourself in relation to others or connecting with others. But now I actually urge you to start looking at a scope from outside of the lab and start practicing and reading deeply into your personal life. You read deeply into CommLab already as a job, but once you start practicing this into your own terms in your own life, you can actually be more in touch with the art of positive communication in your own life and put it towards CommLab. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming in and joining us today. To conclude, we discussed about positive communication and how it can be embodied. Thank you for joining us. And always remember, tune in, listen, and learn. Complementors out.